Hey guys, we will be here in just a second. We got to set up the podcast and we'll start in about 10 seconds. Welcome to CrassenCast, episode number 21. 21. So today we have a big bombshell to talk about, Ed. Yeah, so as many of you know, Democrats in Congress have been trying to get Trump's tax returns. And one way they think they can do that is by subpoenaing some of the banks he's dealt with, including Deutsche Bank, which is a German bank, and Capital One, which is an American-based bank. And so far, it's been a little iffy as far as whether they're going to get these documents from Deutsche Bank or not, as Trump is fighting it, obviously. Trump and Trump Organization and Trump's family, they're all trying their hardest not to allow Congress to get a hold of his tax returns or bank documents. So a judge recently said that Deutsche Bank must tell Congress if they have Trump's tax returns. And yesterday, they actually came forward and said they do. They said that they have tax returns related to Trump as well as other bank documents. We don't know for sure if it's Trump's personal tax returns or if it's Trump Organization or Trump family members' tax returns. Yeah, so back in May of this year, the courts ruled that they have to basically provide these documents to investigators in Congress. When they, at the time, it was unknown if Congress would ever get his tax returns. We don't know if Deutsche Bank has his full tax returns or not, but they do have some of the tax returns. Now, the bombshell last night. Well, first, I think we should explain that Trump has dealt with Deutsche Bank for over 20 years, and he's had over $2 billion in loans from them. In fact, Deutsche Bank Trump actually defaulted on 2 loans in 2004 and 2008, and Deutsche Bank essentially cut him off and said no more loans until something happened, and apparently he got more loans from them. Well, and I want to add that this was all during a time frame that it has been proven that Deutsche Bank was laundering money for Russians and for other organizations, and they actually admitted to this and paid a huge fine to the U.S. government. Yeah, so back to the bombshell that happened last night on MSNBC on Lawrence O'Donnell's show. He claims to have a single source that says that Trump needed CoSigners in order to get some of his loans from Deutsche Bank. And he takes it even further and says that these CoSigners are Russian billionaires with close ties to Vladimir Putin. And this goes along with the whole theory that he was in bed with Russia. And you gotta wonder who these oligarchs are. Or is it Oleg Deripaska or Viktor Vekselberg? These were all people related to the Trump investigation because of their ties to Putin and connections to the Trump campaign and Trump inauguration. Yeah, and O'Donnell also said that the tax returns show that Trump had little or no income taxes paid. So that's something that should aggravate people if you actually care about the wealthy paying taxes. But anyhow, I think that the bombshell here is a whole Russian cosigner thing. So, you need cosigners when you can't get a loan. So Deutsche Bank had already cut Trump off twice, and they said, no more, we're not doing any more business with Trump. He defaults on his loans. He doesn't pay his creditors back. No more. Unless you can get somebody with assets to back collateral. With collateral. You need collateral, and you can't have horrible credit like Trump apparently had. I mean, no other bank would loan him any money. So what was why would Russia lend him $2 billion? Why would they co-sign a loan for $2 billion? Meaning, if Trump defaults on this loan, they are responsible for $2 billion, these rich Russians. Yeah, why would Russia want to pay Trump's debt if Trump can't pay it? What reason? Why would they come forward and do that unless they're getting something in return? what did Trump promise the Russians? Did they promise him an entire country? Did he promise them? Did he promise them? Well, he didn't know he was going to be president yet. So what exactly was going on? Why would they sign off on this loan? Yeah, it's very mysterious. And could it be related to the sanctions that Russia wanted lifted if Trump is elected president? Maybe they said, okay, if you're elected president, you're going to agree to lift these sanctions and we'll co-sign the loan. And then Russia goes out and interferes in an election to get Trump elected because they know that they have Trump in the bag because they're in Trump's pockets, and they're essentially paying him through allowing him to get this loan. And they're paying him, and they're expecting something in return. I want to bring something else up, and people are saying, so why didn't Robert Mueller look into this? Why wasn't this in the Mueller report? And that's because Robert Mueller's job was not to look into these loans. It was to see if Russia had any intention to interfere in the election to help Trump, and if there was collusion. If there was collusion. And this he would likely hand it off to other agents, maybe the FBI, maybe the CIA, who knows? Yeah, these are still ongoing investigations. Everything hasn't completed yet, and Congress needs to investigate this as well. And if Russia co-signed on these loans, Brian, don't you think that would be grounds for impeachment? I would think so, especially given his actions towards Russia. And I mean, just what was it that this G7 this week, he said that Putin outsmarted Obama when he seized Crimea. Yeah, and Putin was then kicked out of the G8, which is now the G7, because he annexed Crimea. And now Trump is trying to get Russia and Putin back into the G7, which why? Now here's another angle to all this, and some of you guys might say, oh, that's kind of borderline conspiracy theory, but you might remember Justice Kennedy, the Supreme Court justice, suddenly resigned, and everybody's shocked. He resigned. Why is he resigning? And I remember as he was resigning, he was walking off with Trump, and he gave Trump a really weird look. Do you remember that? There's a video of this, and it's interesting. But he resigned, and it allowed Trump to appoint his second Supreme Court justice, Brett Kavanaugh. Kennedy was one of those justices, kind of a swing vote. He was in the middle. He wasn't a guaranteed conservative vote. He wasn't a guaranteed liberal vote. So him resigning allowed for Trump to swing the Supreme Court further to the right. And it was unexpected. It was sudden. And here's the kicker. And that is that Justice Kennedy's son was actually the head of Deutsche Bank's real estate division at the time that they were loaning Trump all this money. Now, you might say, oh, well, yeah, but maybe Trump didn't deal with him. Trump didn't know him, but he did. And in fact, Trump said the following. He said to Justice Kennedy on February 2017, it was overheard, say hello to your boy. He's a special guy. So was Justice Kennedy pressured by the Trump administration to resign so that Trump can appoint another Supreme Court justice? And if he was pressured, did Trump use the fact that his son gave him these illegal loans, possibly illegal loans, at least sketchy loans, as a way to pressure him to resign? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be uncovered. And I think America needs to know if Russia is in Trump's pocket. And the only way we find out is if we see his tax returns, which he, by the way, promised over and over again that he would release, only to come and eventually say, oh, I'm under audit, so he can't release them. Although his own lawyer said even if he was under audit, he could release them. So Trump's not wanting to release his tax returns. He kept promising it. He never did. People wanted to see it. Polls still show that everybody wants to see it, but he hasn't released his tax returns. Is this because if he releases his tax returns, we find out that Russia is essentially paying Trump? Right. And when I say paying them, I don't mean they're sending him money, but if they co-signed on a loan, that is essentially doing the same thing. Trump was able to get all of this money because Russia backed that loan up with their own assets, or Russian oligarchs. Well, do you remember right before he was inaugurated, had a press conference. This was January 11th, 2017, 9 days before inauguration. And he was asked several times if he had any ties to Russia. And if you count, it was 9 times in about 60 seconds that he said, I have no ties to Russia. I have no loans connected to Russia. No loans connected to Russia. Only you signed a loan that is apparently co-signed by Russia. Well, and it's important to note that Lawrence O'Donnell at MSNBC is basing this off of a single source. Now, we don't know who the source is. We don't know how confident he is in this source. He himself said that if true. So we don't know if this is 100% accurate, but to think that one of the most well-known news personalities would go on air during prime time and announce this, you have to feel that he is fairly confident that this source is accurate, and Trump did have these billions of dollars in loans co-signed by Russians connected to Putin. Well, the thing is, even if we don't know, like you said, we don't know if he's accurate on this. We don't know if the source is accurate on this, but we should find out, and every American should want to find out if it is true. And Congress will eventually get Trump's tax returns. The courts are going to obviously allow them to do so. I know Trump's fighting it, but even a judge came out and said that it's very unlikely that Trump or his family is going to win this appeal. So we're going to eventually see them, unless of course it goes beyond the 2020 election and Trump's voted out, which I don't think it will do that. I think we will see them. I think it's going to happen, or at least Congress will see it, and we'll find out what's in them. Well, if that's the case, even if it goes past the 2020 election and he's voted out, I think that this isn't going to stop. They're not going to stop investigating. It's going to be a investigation that drags on for months to come after that. So we're going to find out, and the truth will come out. And I think that, like we've been saying for the last 2 years, something's not kosher here, and it's not going to be good for Trump. I mean, you go back and you look at everything that Trump has done to defend Russia against America's own interests, and if he's being given this loan and Russia is co-signing this loan to help Trump, maybe just maybe Trump is calling for Putin to be let back into the G7. Maybe he's calling for Russian sanctions to be lifted. Maybe he's believing Putin over U.S. intel. Maybe that's the reason why he's doing these things. Well, maybe that is I guess you could say, collateral to these Russian billionaires that Trump is providing. I'm gonna help you. You scratch my back, and I scratch yours. And from the surface, that appears to be the case, but we don't know. We don't know all the details yet. I think that based on some of the things that were said back in May at the court hearing with Deutsche Bank, I think this spreads further than Trump. I think there were like over a dozen names blacked out during the court hearing, and these were. It's very possible this was Kushner. It was alluded to that loans were made possibly to Trump's family members as well, which could be Kushner. Ed and I did a pretty big story a few months back with Kushner's ties to the Saudis and Qatar and the United Arab Emirates, and how he's using these governments to pressure Qatar to loan him more money and his business more money. So that's not out of our imagination that he could be. This could involve Kushner as well. Yeah, and like I said, I think we're going to eventually find out what happened. We're going to see, at least get some info on Trump's tax returns. We'll probably see some bank documents from Deutsche Bank, maybe Capital One. And I think that's Congress's job. They need oversight. So to say that they shouldn't have the right to see Trump's tax returns after all this information we have, and after all these connections to Russia, America deserves to know if Trump has Russia in his pocket. Right. Or I guess I should say, yeah, Trump has Russia in his pocket. Well, and here you could say Russia has Trump in their pocket. Exactly. So basically, we're going to have to see what happens here. I think that you're going to see Trump, as more details about this Deutsche Bank story emerge. I think you're going to see Trump further unhinged. He's going to try distracting like he usually does. And with the whole bedbugs thing, now he's like focused. This morning, he's focused on this whole bedbugs incident. So for those who don't know about what happened with the bedbugs, A while back, a man sued Trump for getting bedbug bites at his Doral estate, and Trump actually settled this court case and paid this man for these bedbug bites. And there are negative reviews about bed bugs left on various websites. And Trump recently proposed the idea of having next year's G7 at his Doral resort. And then, which is kind of, I think that's an emoluments violation. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
But now he's calling it fake news that there's bed bugs at Doral Resort. But he actually settled a case and paid this guy who got bed bugs at his Doral Resort.
Maybe he has really crappy lawyers like Michael Cohen. Maybe that's why. Maybe he doesn't really have bed bugs, but he just paid somebody for saying he has bed bugs.
Well, I kind of feel like he's just doing this to distract from this whole Deutsche Bank bombshell that came out last night.
Well, and now you have the hurricane bearing down on Puerto Rico. It might be a tropical storm when it hits, but he's now bringing that up, and like he's kind of blaming Puerto Rico. He's pretty much shedding. He's taking it in light. 3,000 people died in Puerto Rico 2 years ago, and he's acting like this is a joke.
Yeah, it's really sad.
It's all a distraction. He knows that's going to get the media to talk about that. Maybe they'll spend a little bit less time on the Deutsche Bank news.
Yes. So I guess we should move on away from this whole Deutsche Bank thing until we get more information.
Yeah,
like you move on.
The other big story that broke, I guess, overnight, you could say, early this morning, was details that suggest that Trump was promising pardons to White House officials who would help him push the border wall along. And this, what the White House is saying that, he was just joking. He was just joking. So anything Trump does that they don't like, they can just say it was a joke. If they do like it, they can say, oh, yeah, he was serious. But he was promising pardons to officials, and this was for to move the wall along, get it built faster and quicker before the election, so he can meet his promises to his base, I guess. But he wanted them to blow off environmental regulations while building the wall. He wanted them to seize land using eminent domain, maybe illegally seizing land, or quickly doing it where the
others don't really have a say in it.
The party didn't have a chance to fight it. And he wanted to rush through construction contracts. So he has piles of possible contracts. He just wanted to rush through it all and just get it out. Who cares if it's a crappy construction company? Who cares if we're
probably his own people that he picked the contracts for, like he's done in the past.
Right. So he's basically telling these people, oh, you can break the law. I'll just erase that from your record. I'll just make sure you don't go to prison for breaking the law, as long as you're helping me build this wall that we don't actually need.
I think that's probably a first for a president to offer a pardon to people in order to get them to break the law, not because they think that the law they broke was irrelevant. He's actually offering these pardons to convince people to break the law in order to benefit himself and his campaign.
I thought this was the party of law and order. I didn't realize this was the party of break the law and have no order.
Well, apparently times are changing, Brian.
Right. So this story combined with the story about Deutsche Bank, Trump has to be a bit unhinged, and it seems that way because he's been tweeting like a crazy person. Not that he doesn't do that every day. All morning long, he's made over a dozen tweets, I think, by now, and you can tell that he's clearly trying to distract and clearly trying to get the media's attention on something else. So just watch out, because who knows what he's going to say or do later in the day.
Well, you mentioned before that he wants to get this wall built so he can uphold his promise that he made during his campaign to his base, but I recall him saying that Mexico was going to pay for the wall. How is that happening? I don't see a check coming from Mexico. I see it being deducted from our taxes.
Right, but his base...
And taken from the army.
All he has to do is tweet out, oh, yeah, Mexico's paying for it because I'm going to put tariffs on them or whatever. And his base believes him. They don't actually look into the numbers or investigate what he's saying, make sure that what he's saying is accurate. All they do is they take him for his word, even though he's lied. What is it, 11,000 times now?
Well, it's 12,000. It's not lies. It's misstatements or lies. Oh, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt there, Brian.
Yeah, but it's just unbelievable how his base will believe everything he says. And if they don't believe it, I think they kind of try and rationalize it so that in their mind, he's not telling a lie.
Exactly.
So I think that probably wraps up today's news segment. Is there any?
Episode 21 of CrassenCast. Again, you can follow us on Facebook. Just go to search for Krassenstein Brothers. You can follow us on iTunes. Just search for CrassenCast, and we're also available on YouTube at CrassenCast.